Welcome to MSP 1337. I'm your host, Chris Johnson, a show dedicated to cybersecurity challenges, solutions, a journey together, not alone. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of MSP 1337. As many of you know, it is 2025, and I have decided that there will be probably one or two per month, where I bring on a vendor who brings something unique to you, the audience. And for those of you that remember back in the day, a product called the Link Sprinter. Maybe it was yellow. Maybe you're young enough to only know the green edition. But I have brought with me today, I have two brilliant individuals from NetAlly, Jeff McCullough and Brad Reinboldt. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Chris, thanks.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for the invite, Chris.
So I bring up the candy bar, the little tiny thing that you can literally fit in your pocket, because I think it was one of the biggest game changers for my MSP. And so when I was connected with you, I was like, yes, please. I want to know what NetAlly is doing today. And so in setting up this show, I want obviously both of you to tell us a little bit about uh, NetAlly and what they've been up to the last few years. It's been a while since I dug deep into the NetAlly product other than to wire my house. I used my little tester to make sure things were proper. Um, but then we know that there's two very distinct things that we want to talk about today that I think every MSP will be keen on. The first one, obviously, is the traditional, every network engineer or help desk person that might be getting sent to a client site needs to have in their hands. But I'm excited then to get to, as we get into the latter part of the show, is to talk about Cyberscope. And I was actually quite impressed. And so just to tease it a little bit, it involves CIS, it involves NIST CSF. So stay tuned. We'll get into the cybersecurity here in a little bit. So, Brad, why don't you go ahead and kick us off? Or I guess if Jeff, if you want to go first, I don't want to, no fighting on the show. Obviously, we're
We
virtual,
promise.
so it'll hurt really bad.
Yeah, Jeff and I talked. So we're not going to argue today, right? Right, Jeff?
Right.
Just kidding.
That's
Jeff, why
right.
don't you
Yeah.
start, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks. Thanks, Chris. And again, excited to be here and give a update everybody who might know about NetAlly and or those who have never heard of NetAlly. Give you a quick overview. So, NetAlly as a company is about 5 years old, but we actually have a 30-year history. NetAlly actually spun out of Fluke Networks. And usually when people haven't heard of NetAlly, they'll have heard of Fluke. And so we have a heritage of longstanding heritage of providing tools such as the tools you've used in the past for testing, validating, discovering network devices. Our focus is on the wired and wireless segments of the market. We offer a portfolio of handheld products that allow frontline workers to identify, troubleshoot, and resolve issues quickly and efficiently. As you noted, it's a tool everybody should have in their bag when they're being dispatched or walking into a customer site or into a data center trying to solve a big problem. Our tools are the standard go-to to help really validate and confirm the stability or the integrity of the network connection, all the way up through the network stack. So we're a critical part of the resolution strategy that engineers use to solve their problems. At the same time, we've been evolving and growing. Our portfolio has really been modernized. We've refreshed our entire portfolio from our entry-level products all the way up to our high-end products like Cyberscope, and really have started to shift our value proposition. While we continue to focus on supporting the network engineer, we're really trying to help executives, leadership within companies understand how they can be better at their roles, how they can hit their KPIs, how they can deliver against their biggest challenges by leveraging our products in a more aggressive way across the organization. So when you hire a new network engineer, you typically give them a laptop. You want to make sure you're giving them a network test device as well. Give them the tools to do their jobs. And when we look at customers and we talk to our own customers, they are telling us that they're reducing the time it takes to resolve problems. They're reducing their costs by eliminating third-party support organizations. They're improving their user experience significantly, and all of those are the things that line up with what you look at CIO priorities in 2025. You're going to find all of those things: agility, customer experience, cost reduction.
Sure.
All of those are going to be on the list. So we really think of ourselves as being able to not only help the frontline worker, but really help leadership deliver against their agenda in the new year. So I think the portfolio is really interesting from our handheld products through our Link Live platform, which is our cloud-based or private platform that gathers all of that information in an organization. Those tools, the complete portfolio, really helps allows us to focus on simplicity for the customer, visibility in their environment, and then collaboration across the organization. So it's an
Before I
exciting time for NetAlly and a lot of expansion that we're doing.
Before we go to Brad, I just want to point out when you mentioned that everyone should have it in their tool bag. I mean, this is the equivalent of a multi-tool, right? Like there's no network engineer that's doing any sort of rack type stuff that doesn't have, the Phillips, flathead, a few other combo things in that screwdriver. And quite honestly, it's kind of shameful if they don't at least have that. This is, I would argue, the equivalent of that in the, network space because it does roughly I'd say conservatively about a dozen things by itself. And when you guys added the web interface that took us beyond the ability for me to just look at it on my smartphone and see the things that were showing up, you created what every network engineer or MSP should be doing today, which is when you are connecting that asset to their network, you're creating the documentation that identifies what is actually plugged into that port on that switch that's getting out to hopefully the internet or not if it's not supposed to.
Yeah.
I don't want to sugarcoat it, but I think that is probably one of the most undervalued asset that when I run into MSPs that are still doing, build outs or troubleshooting on-prem, why they don't, you can get it on Amazon. This is crazy. This is 2025. Like really, why do you not have one of these?
Yeah, thanks. No, I'd agree, and I think that's the when we see a lot of customers that'll buy one for the data center and they'll share it or they'll box it up and ship it across country when somebody has a need. And again, when you consider the time to resolution, how do everybody's trying to work faster, smarter, get things done, and even if you next day air something you're just talking about a lag there where
You
if
just
somebody
bought
had
another
this in
one.
their hand you just you pay for yourself, it pays for itself immediately in those scenarios. So yeah, I would agree. I mean it's the go-to tool, and it helps network engineers just do their jobs better, which is what we aim to do.
All right. Brad, you got anything you want to add to Jeff's monologue?
Right. Well, no, yeah, I haven't got much, only in the sense that I would say that, again, kind of leveraging what he spoke to. The first thing I'd say is that, and he again alluded to it, Jeff, that, we've been around in some form since 1993 with the land meter. And so our history is long, our lineage goes way back, and all these technologies, right, Jeff? Over the years, we've been building on them, the various applications, solutions, problem-solving capabilities. Again, everything I talk about with the handhelds applies just as well with Link Live, which we'll get into in a bit. But suffice it to say that over the years, we've developed a suite of tools that really allows anyone from just basic connectivity testing all the way up to layer 7 testing to really understand what specifically is going on or not going on that ought to be going on in
Sure.
that particular network environment. And all in the context of the edge, which is, I've been in this business, well, for 30 years, but it actually working for NetAlly the last 3. And it's interesting, the edge is a very dynamic environment. And, our customers, which run the gamut from some of the largest to the smallest, they all have one thing at least in common is they all have an edge. And on that edge, they got people coming and going, things connecting that maybe ought not to be connecting, people coming into maybe a branch location, leaving the branch location. perhaps inadvertently or advertently leaving things behind. Whatever the case might be, over the years, we really learned that, we want to sell tools that when he or she goes into that location, they can quickly get an idea of what exactly is going on in that network and how to go about rectifying any issues or problems they might see, whether it's networking and or whether it's security with the more recent cyberscope, which builds on all that 30 plus years of
Sure.
technology.
Can you imagine trying to identify unauthorized assets in an airport on the wireless? I mean,
It's
the amount of noise that's there is, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah. And it's interesting over the years, our various SEs and even myself, we go into environments and just, fired up just as a guest going into a network. And it's like, hmm, that's I wonder if they know that's going on.
right,
So there
right.
is there is a lot of that, and it's interesting. I'll just tell a story. I won't even tell you what event it was at, but suffice to say, with respect to like cyberscope, sometimes we've flagged things and actually gone and kind of told somebody, kind of sotto voce, like you might want to take a look at so
Yeah.
and so VLAN. And then Ken said, "How do you know? Just believe me.
Just
Go
believe
look at
me.
that
Yeah.
VLAN, okay? Just go take a look at it, and we'll wait if you want."
Yeah.
So. But no, absolutely. And again, it goes back to just that history that goes, all these years and all this technology that we built on it. Again, I'm sure many of the listeners of this podcast are familiar with it, whether it's the green NetAlly colors, right, Jeff? Or going back, there's been various colors. I won't give the names, but suffice to say that it hasn't only been green over the years. Some of our tools have been
Fair.
various colors, but they've all helped. One thing they have in common, they've all helped, get to the bottom of issues and connectivity or otherwise. So.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I will say I did find this out. If you have an old yellow device,
Yeah.
you can get it configured to take advantage of what we wanted to talk about next, which is the web portal, or I guess it's called Link Live. Is that
Mhm.
Correct.
and the value that that brings, which obviously goes way beyond what I was talking about at the beginning, where it's like I would look at it on my smartphone and if I didn't do some sort of screenshot or save it off, it was essentially gone as soon as I disconnected from the link sprinter. So tell me more about that, because I think that's a good segue to talk about your wired and wireless solutions. First, I think on the networking side, we've kind of alluded to some of the things that you can do, and then I really want to spend the latter half or more focusing on what you really bring to the table from the cyber scope side of things.
If you want to go
Yeah,
ahead.
well,
Yeah.
yeah, I'll talk about Link Live and then we'll dive into Cyberscope. So yeah, so Link Live, and I joined NetAlly back in September, so still relatively new. But when I was looking through the products in the portfolio, the one product that really stood out to me as maybe the most strategic is Link Live, right? It's cloud hosted. We also sell it or make it available as an on-prem private version for customers that are security sensitive or don't want to have information out on the cloud. In a public cloud environment, we offer it as a private version. But what it does is it allows all of our devices, from our lowest end Link Sprinter devices all the way up to Cyberscope, to be able to not only capture data and look at the data on the device, but then port it up into the cloud platform so that you can later go back and look at it, or somebody at the headquarters location can bring all of that information in. We have analytics that lets you look across the portfolio and look for trends across your devices and within the data. We have the ability to take remote control of the device. So if you have an engineer who's on site, somebody back at a council could actually take control of that device and actually look themselves at what's going on, or run tests on the device if they want to run a specific test or modify a script. So Link Live really creates it. It's really what is the key to the collaboration value that we bring to the table, letting customers capture data locally, store it in the repository, look at it later, and we have an API set as well that lets you export that data if you want to use it for other purposes. So it's a nice extensible tool, but most importantly, it brings together, whether you have 5 of our devices or 100 of our devices, bring it all together in a central repository and be able to look at it all as an organization, which is super powerful.
It's the requirements, right? Like we're seeing the shift in what is allowed to be, not tracked is shifting dramatically, and not knowing what is
Yeah.
happening in your own environment or documenting the proof that it is configured the way you've said it's configured is it's game changer for, evidence gathering that quite honestly, without expensive infrastructure can be, taxing and out of reach for many MSPs.
Yes. Yes.
I would just add to what Jeff said, specifically for MSPs or MSSPs, the report generation capability, the ability to share information, you can give log on to different clients, right, Jeff? So you might have, a set of 10, 15, 20 customers you go to. They can all go out and look. Again, it's highly secure for
Sure.
their particular results. They can go out and kind of see, like, okay, so they went out to this branch or this location. What did they do? They did a Wi-Fi survey. They did a cybersecurity, assessment. They can kind of look at those results. You can format PDFs, right, Jeff? You can output results, but you can get that information to the right stakeholders. And
Sure.
Jeff spoke earlier to it. And again, we're strategic, and I think that's the one thing, Jeff. I think we as a company really have to speak to when it comes to the edge. We are really strategic. There's so much going on there, and we're so very good at the edge in terms of discovery and finding those vulnerabilities that can, under certain circumstances, be missed by other tools. And so, as part of their overall, I'm speaking now specifically of their cybersecurity posture,
Sure.
cyberscope is definitely something that, again, MSPs, MSSPs take to their customers of all sizes and say, hey, we're already in here doing Wi-Fi surveys. I've got this tool. I can find some vulnerabilities, maybe some unsecured printers. Jeff said earlier, maybe an access point that's not authorized, especially like, say, in a campus environment, lots of people coming and going,
Yeah.
most good people, sometimes perhaps, well, anyway. And again, our tool can come in again, and it's also ongoing. Everybody listen to this podcast. You don't just go into a client once and leave for a year. You're
Right.
going back. And with our tools, including CyberScope, you can go back and periodically check again and say, here's what you had on June 1st. Here's what you have on August 1st. You want to talk about these deltas?
Yeah, I think that's a really good point to bring up is, when we do go on site to troubleshoot something and you identify things like the IoT devices that weren't there before Christmas, but suddenly are now unpacked and in places that they probably shouldn't be. Or the second one is, everything seems to be normal with the exception of what we fixed, which was something got plugged in and spanning tree hadn't been something stupid and we identified, but we captured information that's valuable. And then, like you said, yeah, maybe it is a year later, and they're like, all of a sudden they've got a random problem. To be able to go back and look and go, hey, when we were here, this is what it looked like. We have not physically been there since. Look at the changes we found that you have made or someone else has made, and here's the proof, which I think
Yeah.
in many cases we didn't capture evidence that we could take back. And if we did, it'd be hard to say that it was definitively from that environment just because of the way in which it was, recorded.
Yeah.
Right.
Brad, why don't you give it like a quick high level overview of cyberscope? We've been talking about it, but it'd be great just
Yes.
to frame out what it
Absolutely.
is.
So again, yeah, absolutely. So to begin, it's built on this long history of Ethoscope, AirCheck G3, which again, many of the folks on this listen to this podcast will appreciate, but may even have, right? And so we took that, and essentially like 3 or 4 years ago, we found that a number of MSPs and just general customers were essentially using our networking tools for cybersecurity. So for instance, they might do a Wi-Fi survey and then say, it's interesting. I see these 38 access points. That's all copacetic. But what are these other two, right? Or, other examples might be like, we're supposed to be running the latest security. That's interesting. For whatever reason, this particular, it's back level. It's only WPA or something, right?
Sure.
So, and so we thought was, how can we simplify for MSPs and our customers and make it even better and easier? So we took, again, Ethoscope, and on top of that, by the way, you get all the technology that comes with Ethoscope. So if you want to do standard cable testing, it's all there. But on top of that, we offer various types of vulnerability assessments. And it allows you to, like, for instance, validate the edge infrastructure hardening of your environment, confirm wired and Wi-Fi security. Are specific ports open on a switch that don't need to be open? They are, close them. You can automate, we spoke to this earlier, we can automate the discovery process and vulnerability scanning. So again, with a cyberscope, for example, you could leave it at a client, maybe periodically go back in and do snapshots of it. And again, see over time how things are changing. Frequently, especially at the edge, yeah, I understand we added those printers or what have you,
Right.
but it very quickly allows you to differentiate. It actually highlights for you what's changed and all this information. It starts at Cyberscope or any of our other tools and gets pushed up into Link Live, mostly automatically. With Autotest, you can push them up. And from there, you can see snapshots over time, things that are changing, get a baseline, build out on that. And we find both our customers and our MSPs or MSSPs, they really like to see changes, right? You're going along fine. It's like your automobile. You're going along fine, and there's a new noise. It's like, right? Same
Yeah.
thing with the network, right? It's like, yep, those changes. Yep, we did all those things. What's that? And then be able to very quickly locate it. Again, our tool, one of the things we really would try to focus on too is that we have a very distinct perspective, and maybe it's obvious. Our tool connects at the network edge, and it's like, well, duh. But a lot of tools, like when we go to trade shows now, we're one of the only tools that's like, here, Chris, look at it, hold it. A lot of those tools are centralized. It's great, it's brilliant that they're all centralized, but as they come in and go down towards the edge network, there are potential obstacles, segmentation errors, what have you, that might make it such that they can't discover everything on the network. We are connecting directly to the edge of the network. And in doing so, we offer a perspective that can augment many of those other centralized tools and really fill out exactly what's going on at time T when you go into that environment.
Yeah, I think what's interesting is you guys have talked about it actually quite a bit, not in the context of cybersecurity, but in the amount of time that we really have to make a decision about next steps. And I
Mm,
think that's what's really interesting here is the evolution over the 30-year timeline hasn't been about, continuing to diversify your product portfolio. It has been to continuously layer that which is important to the CIO or the CISOs, those that are making strategic decisions around, business, financial risk, non-IT specific things, and then going, wait a second, you mean there's a tool that can help us make better decisions about the environments we're responsible for without, being a FTE or some other like ongoing reoccurring cost that, maybe we can't afford, especially when it uncovers what some of these we've seen uncovering, like that's going to cost a lot to fix, and that will solve the problem. So glad I invested in this tool, right?
And
yeah.
absolutely, part of that strategy too, strategicness of our tool is that, right from the get-go, we realize that many of the people on this call, their clients and customers of this podcast, they're responsible to mapping to various security frameworks.
Yeah.
And so, if you're gonna really, be serious about this business, right? You just can't come in a kind of an abstract way, saying, well, we help bolster your security. Well, that's all kind of interesting, but
Right.
it's like how specifically. So, for example, not limited to this only, but the CIS critical controls. There are specific areas where we can help. We can't do all 18, but there's specific ones, 1, 4, 7, 12, 13, and 18 where we can augment a lot of the other tools that are in the environment, especially at the edge, to help build out that confidence at that enterprise level that you're complying with, again, in this particular case, CIS, but you could substitute NIST. We
Sure.
have NIST 2 going on in Europe. That's just bubbling up now. But to be strategic and really be valuable as a strategic partner and add business value, you need to kind of speak that greater language. And again, one example would be these various frameworks that we map directly to specific ones at the edge. So,
Yes, and for everybody listening, every one of you is going to get something. No, I'm just kidding. Is
You can
there,
go to our website and get a picture of it for
that's
sure.
right.
No
You can get
charge.
pictures from their website for free. Like the screenshots are totally take
All
as
you
many as
want,
you
all you can
want.
eat.
Yeah. So if I was providing guidance to anybody that's not familiar with any of the products, where would you encourage them to start? If I was to evaluate today, whether it's the Lynx printer or maybe I'm getting all the way into the cyberscope space, where would you recommend starting, especially in today's world? I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, but I was thinking about like the different products you have, like you mentioned that there's the wired wireless combo, but so many environments anymore, like there is a several assets that are wired. It's the server room, firewall, internet, right? Like there's not a ton of wired assets in many cases anymore. It's become quite a bit less. Is there a place that you recommend someone starting as far as evaluating your devices?
Jeff, do you want
Yeah,
to take
well,
a
yeah, you start with netally.com, right? I think that's the best place to go. We have a lot of content there. If you're a partner, our partner portal also has a wealth of information in the for partners to take training, white papers, guides, etc. So there's a lot of information that you can get online, readily available for customers and partners. So I would start there. I don't know, Brad, if there's maybe some white papers
Yeah, yeah,
that you
there
would
is.
recommend.
Yeah, if you just go out to, you can go out and look at NetAlly. You can also go to the Cyberscope website as well, and I can give you the URL. I'll pull it up in a second and provide that. But suffice to say that there's a lot of great information that talks about like the CIS critical controls, for example, but also speaks to some of the use cases again that we already spoke to in terms of being able to address specific needs, whether it's on the networking side or on the security side, and or both, right? Depending upon your specific needs. And again, I said earlier, once you get to that point, we have a number of different, the ones that people would know, partners that can work with you, and we are more than willing to get on a call. NetAlly folks, like myself, like the SEs, like our sales reps, and kind of talk to you about your specific use cases. There may be places, right, Jeff, where maybe you just need link spreaders. Fine, great. There's places for those basic connectivity. Maybe other situations for different people, staff members that may need a little bit stronger tools, like maybe an Etherscope or what have you, with more
Sure.
capabilities. And we've got a number of people within the organization and the resellers and so forth that we've empowered to help you make the best decision for your specific needs.
Well, I think you mentioned the evolution of the products was in large tied to how the devices were being used. Like I'm using this link sprinter as part of my cybersecurity review or survey of your environment. I was looking through some of the white papers earlier, and two things came to mind for me. And please correct me if this is wrong, but it would seem that from when it comes to networking, there's two things that stand out probably more than any other potential problem in their environment. Number one is misconfigured networks or misconfigured
Mm,
devices. And then the second one would be assets that shouldn't be present that obviously are difficult to find because those that want its assets in that are convenient tend to have, good ideas of hiding them or like, hey, guess what? Guess who's coming tomorrow to check on our environment? Like, quick, unplug your personal printer and put it in your desk drawer or that access point or Echo or Echo Show or fill in the blank, right? Like but if you can put something on there and you can at least, see the data from what's maybe been the last 30 days or some of that information that gets captured through a scan of a switch, those kind of things. Is that fair? Like, is it more often than not that there's actual just problems with the way it's been configured? Then, yep, obviously you got malware running on here, so we should probably do something about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think it runs the gamut. It includes that. But, for every one of those, it can just be kind of benign things. So we have many examples, some at some local universities where, a professor, he or she just brings a printer in, a little, like the one I got upstairs, a little HP 3900 you buy for
Sure.
$150, right? And every port in the world is open, right? It's just like out of the box. They bring it in. Well, I just didn't want to walk down the hall. It's like, you've got to shut that down. You've got, right there's like, oh, I didn't realize it. Or, I
Yeah.
just wanted to get a little bit of better Wi-Fi, coverage. So then I should not have brought that gateway. Oh, I didn't realize, right? So for every one of those kind of nefarious ones, it's just as much, right, Jeff, misconfigured. Someone brings in a device completely benignly. They
Sure.
hook it up, but when they do that, they're opening a door for someone to pull up in front of that particular campus building. It's like he or she can gain access,
yeah.
move laterally. So
Yeah, I would agree. It's absolutely the intentions are all virtuous, but the implementation is troublesome, right? It
Sure.
creates gaps, and the nefarious people are out there looking for the gaps, right? They're looking for the issues. We've one One of the markets that we're really strong in is conventions and casinos, right? Because in casinos, you have,
Yeah.
when you look at casino floors, you're talking a ton of IP connected devices, right?
Yeah.
All the slot machines, all these devices are connected. And, for some casinos, they're moving stuff around all the time. And so you start to lose track of what ports are active, what ports, and so it's easy for someone to slip in and plug in a access point and all of a sudden get an entry, right?
Yeah.
So, there's lots of scenarios where it's the unintended consequences that are the biggest risks. And I think that's where, again, we shine a light on those things, both the physical infrastructure, and then the security infrastructure.
Feel like that's where the proof comes in, right? Like I remember doing some experiments with leave a data cable not plugged in to the wall, even though it doesn't need to be. Like, so if it's a phone that's got a second port, put a 6 foot patch cable in that port and just see what happens. If it's visible, inevitably someone sees, hey, that looks like it matches to that. I should plug that back in, right? And all of a sudden you have a problem. Well, that's not a very useful way to explain to the client that there's a bunch of idiots plugging cables in because they were there and they needed to be plugged in. This gives real evidence, right? Like this shows that, hey, no, you plugged something in that is actually causing a problem to the efficiency, or maybe it's
Yeah,
compromising the entire environment because now it's broadcasting out to the internet, creating a homing beacon for someone who is a nefarious actor. That's
yeah.
Yes, if I was to say anything about what I get from looking at your products is just the proof. I think proof is so hard to come by in our space, especially when you're trying to explain to those that are not, tech savvy or really, no one wants to have an acronym explained to them, especially if it's a doctor, because there's a good chance you're both using the same acronym and it means two completely different things.
Yeah,
Yep.
and I would just jump in with the link live where you could communicate that with, I didn't even mention the dashboards. Yeah, you can communicate, give them access. Like here's the
Here's the
result of
proof.
our. Here it is. I mean, you want a PDF, you want to show it, right, Jeff? We have
Sure.
dashboards. Here's exactly the access points. I mean, you can. It's just very easy for, again, the people listening to this podcast to make it, monetize it to, or enable it for your customers to really see. You went out to these sites, you did this. This is the results. You went out T plus delta T. These are the
Yeah,
results. They're all up there. They're all available. You can make it directly or indirectly available to their clients, and really make it a win-win both for the MSPs and MSSPs as well
sure.
as their customers and clients.
Yeah. We're running out of time. Is there any
Yep.
last thing you would like to share with the audience before we go?
Um,
Yep. I'll go. Let me
Brad, go
just.
ahead.
I'll just say really first. To me,
Yeah.
you want to really. If I had to, if you said, give me one thing, I would say, and you're asking me, our ability to discover is fantastic. If you want to really know what's going on in an environment at the edge, our
Sure.
tool is really great at discovery, which can help your clients and your customers really understand what's happening at the edge. If you found everything, what you can't see can hurt you.
Right.
But you see everything, that's the foundation. Everything else, we could talk about vulnerability scans and all that. So my takeaway is that if you really want to give your customer confidence that he or she or they know is what's going on in that particular environment, our cyberscope or one of our many other tools is
Sure.
the fantastic tool to trust but verify.
Got it.
Awesome. Great way to end.
All right. Well, for those of you listening, this has been an episode of MSP 1337. Thanks and have a great week.
Thank you.